Hello friends, welcome back to this modern JavaScript series. Today we are going to deep dive into arguments, a functional approach. We will see REST operators and spread operator, how to use the REST syntax and spread syntax, what is the difference between both of them. We will see it today. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So in JavaScript, there is one special array-like object which is there in all the functions. We can use it directly. I will show you one simple example here and you will understand it very easily. So I have created one function here named show names, which basically shows whatever names you pass to it. So let's see the implementation. So here I have written one console.log line which indicates the length, and we have one special object here which is known as the arguments. I'm taking the length of that arguments object. So that is the special array like object we have in our all the functions except the arrow functions. We'll come back to it later. So we have this arguments object in our all type of functions with. So in the first line I'm printing the length of these arguments, and then in the second line I'm printing the first value of arguments. Then in the third line I'm printing the second value of the argument, which I am denoting by the index 1, and at the end I am printing the arguments as part of the last line. So I'll be printing all the arguments here. So let me just run this function by calling it as a show names here with passing the one name first. So I'm passing Nilesh only here. So if I run this, you can see there are several things has been printed. So first of all, length has been printed, that is 1, as I'm passing only one parameter. So it is printing one argument as a length here. Then the first value is Nilesh, so it is printing Nilesh here by accessing the index 0. And then in the second value line, the third line which accesses the second value, it is printing undefined because we are only passing the first argument or one argument, and at the end it is printing the entire object. If you carefully see this object, it contains the key as the number and value as the this parameter or argument value, but it is similar to array. If you try to access all the indexes, it will be available to you. Let me show you one more example. I will print another name, YouTube, and if I run this, you can see uh, both the lines have been printed. Length is 2 now. Nilesh and YouTube has been printed at the respective lines. And then the last arguments object has been printed with the key as 0 and value as Nilesh, and key as 1 and the value as YouTube. So that is what JavaScript functions have access to. There is one problem with these arguments. If you see, you can see here it is printed as the object kind of structure, right? But we call it as a array like object, right? It does not support array method, so we can't call any arguments.map method, for example. So that was the downside of this arguments object available inside our functions. Let's move ahead. So I'm clearing this console here so that we can clearly see the rest of the part. So now we will look into the REST operator, which is denoted by the three dots, as we can see here. So it is denoted by these three dots. In JavaScript, a function can be called with any number of arguments, no matter how it is defined. So I'll give you one simple example of it, what I mean by this. So I'm creating a sum function here which takes two arguments, a and b, and in return it will give you the sum of these two numbers. So it will return the sum of a and b. So if I want to call this number, I will do something like this, sum of 1 and 2, right? So if I run this, you will see the sum of these two numbers, 3. But this is the normal approach, right? We know how many arguments are there in this sum function and we are calling based on that. But let's say I don't know the signature of this function, and I call it and pass so many arguments like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There are total 5 arguments, and if I run this, you cannot actually take the sum of all these arguments. It will only return the first 2 arguments, but it will not throw any error in this case. If you are familiar with any other programming languages, it clearly states that this is the wrong calling here, and it will throw an error that number of arguments are not matching and something like that. So this is called the excessive arguments example. We can pass as many as parameters we wish to pass, or we can pass as many arguments we wish to pass to the function call. So we can how we can create a dynamic function which actually takes all these arguments, no matter how many arguments has been passed by calling this function. We can actually achieve this. So we have a rest operator here. So I'm creating a function here, sum all, which will take care of all the arguments and it will return the sum. So let's see how we can do that. So I'm creating one argument. So I'm storing all these values into this args parameter, and this 3 dots denotes that it basically gathers all the arguments into a single collection or list. You can say this is the list. It is basically array. If you use these 3 dots, it becomes array because it will combine all these values into a single array. So let me just write the body of this function. So now I know args is my array. So if I loop through all the args, I can create a sum. So I'm doing for loop here, looping through arg and taking arg as a single value. Then I have created some variable with 0 initial value. If I do this, I can actually generate the sum of all the arguments, and I will at the end return the sum. So if I call this method, as I'm calling it here, sum all with initially 2 values, and if I run this, you can see 3 and 3 has been printed. 3 has been printed from here, but the second 3 has been printed from here. And if I pass more arguments, you can see I'm passing one more argument. The next line prints 6, which means my function is not failing to return me the correct answer. But in the above example, the normal sum actually takes care of only 2 arguments. So that is not capable, that function is not capable of giving me the dynamic sum, but this function is able to give me the dynamic sum. If I pass more arguments here, let me give you the example. 30, you can pass as many you wish, and if I run this, you can see 86 has been printed. So it's taking all these arguments, and it is gathering all these arguments as an array of the arguments here by using this syntax. Okay, so that is why we are able to convert or create the dynamic sum whatever you pass here. So that is the rest operator, guys. And if we go ahead, as I mentioned, this rest operator is used to gather all the arguments or values. That is what we have done in earlier example. So spread operator here. So spread operator is nothing but to spread the values out of the collection. So rest is used to gather all the values into a single collection, and spread is opposite of the rest operator. So spread operator is used to expand the list of collection to individual values. So let us see the example here. So I am creating one array here which has a few values up to 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 34, and 122. It is ordered list, but that doesn't matter whatever you write. And I will try to find out the max value out of this array. So we have a math class here, math object, you can say. It contains few of the methods like max, and if you see, max takes arguments, so returns the larger of a set of supplied numeric expressions. So whatever you pass here, it takes expressions as well. So you can pass expressions there, But let me give you the example first. If I write something like this, 1 5 sorry 4 2, so I'm passing three parameters, right? So internally this max function will take all these argument and it will combine these arguments and will return me the max value. So it is doing the same thing which we are doing in the sum all, but we are passing as a separate arguments, right? But let's say I want to find out the max out of this array. So what can I do? I can use this spread operator syntax and I can use this array as an argument here. So if you see, I am calling this max function with these three dots in front of my object or array. That means it is spreading my entire array. Okay, so if I run this, you will see my answer will be 122. As we know, 122 is the largest value out of this array. So that is how this spread thing works. So just to distinguish between two spread operator and rest operator, you have to remember this thing. When this three dots is at the end of a function parameters, it is a rest parameters. Likewise here, if it is end of this function, then it is a rest parameters and gathers the rest of the list of arguments into an array. So I'll show you one more example. Let's say I'm passing 1 2 3 here, right? If I want to make sum of, let's say, all the arguments but not the first argument, so what can I do? I can separately save the first argument as another variable. Let's say I'm calling it as a, and then rest of the variables I can store as args. So if you can see here, I'm calling this function. Let me just comment this out. I'm calling this function 1 2 3. Ideally it should return 6 as the output, but I am just looping over the args, right, arguments, which is the arrow rest operated or rest parametered values. So it is returning me only 2 plus 3, which is 5, because it is taking a as another parameter. I can show you that if I do console dot log here. If I do console log here a, and then again I can do console.log here with args, so you will see all these values available to you. So first value has been stored as a, and then 2 and 3 as an array. You understood, right? So you have to take care of this thing, that whenever you use the rest operator in your function arguments, you have to write it at the end of the list, otherwise it will not work. And when you use three dot in a function call, or it is called as we are calling this math function here, if you have seen this, so as we are calling this max method with the three dots, then it is known as the spread operator. So that is the main difference between rest and spread operator and the arguments object available to functions. And do remember that arrow functions don't have any arguments object. So that is the main difference between rest, spread and arguments. I hope you have learned something new from this video. Please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe my channel and press the bell icon so that you get notified whenever we upload a video. Thank you. We'll see you in the next video.